Aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness, and I'm super, super excited because today I'm interviewing Therese Tucker, and we were together, being interviewed together on a Wisdom Dialogues with Maria Owl, and I'm so impressed with this amazing lady that I wanted to interview her for my YouTube channel, so you guys can learn about who she is and the powerful work that she's doing in the world, and also get to know a little bit more about what we can do, what you can do to go through these times in a more peaceful and harmonious way, even though it's rocky, we're in the rapids right now, lots of stuff is happening. How can we find our own inner peace through this time, and what should we be expecting? So Teresa, what I'd love to do is just have you kind of introduce yourself, and what would you like people to know about who you are?
Great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Hi, everyone. My name is Therese Tucker, and I am the creator of Blythe Starlight, which is a brand that's here to help you channel your inner mystic and develop your intuition. I am a psychic medium. I am an intuitive artist. I mentor people through intuition. And I'm here to help people break down old programming and old entrainment so they can step into the creator being that they actually are.
I love it. I love it. And it's blithestarlight.com, right? Your website.
Yes.
We'll say that at the end as well. So what I want to start with is your own journey, because you being a psychic medium, that's a lot of times people are going, what is that? And I know for myself, I'm always so impressed and it's intriguing. It's like, what is that about? Because I know each one of us feels energy, because I can sit with people and I can feel the energy and I can feel sometimes what they're thinking. And so I can feel that, but I don't really get voices, and I don't see visions and stuff like that. So let's start with your journey about how did this start?
Sure. Well, I'd actually like to start by saying that I have a very adamant belief that we all have these abilities. Um, Growing up, they were naturally a part of my life. I didn't know that they were different, or that people weren't experiencing them to the level I was experiencing them. For example, as a child, I mean, I was one of those classic children who was always like trying to climb into their parents' bed because I didn't like all the people in my room. I was just, trying to be little. And I was constantly like hiding under the covers and stuff because there'd be beings standing in the doorway, or I'd hear people talking, and it only seemed to amplify at night. So I was constantly scared of the dark, constantly had issues with that, only because I was picking up so much energy around me. I remember my mom telling us that the house we lived in at the time, that the person who lived there had committed suicide, the before us or something like that, which later, like putting two and two together, I'd be like, that explains that really uncomfortable energy in the house that really kind of came out at night. But so my experiences were things that I would probably talk about it to my parents, and I would be told, you have a really amazing imagination. So it wasn't necessarily highlighted in my life, nor was it really shunned. I got to be a very creative kid. I was always told how imaginative I was, and sometimes mocked for it a little bit. Like they used to call me Spacey Tracy. That was my nickname growing up, was Tracy. But it was like, there's Tracy off in the clouds, and it just, because I go into trance really easily, just anything that would, like going into the car, it was like, I couldn't tell you how we got where we got because I wasn't in the car. I was out of the car. I was listening to something else. I was viewing something else. And I didn't really have the spatial awareness of where I was, because I wasn't in the body. So I was sort of that kid, you know what I mean? Like just the one that seemed to be kind of on another planet, because it probably was.
Probably. Yeah, for sure about that. When did you start realizing, okay, I'm a little different now. No, not everybody is getting this, seeing these beings, and when did that happen?
So when I go back and I think about it again, it wasn't anything that was too dramatic. It built on itself. And I know that we all have I call them our team in spirit. We have guides all around us, beings that are with us, that are sort of helping us if we're open to it, move in the directions that we need to go into. And so things would happen, like we would move to a different area, and then there would be like I remember there was a cafe just above our neighborhood. It was just, I had to walk through the neighborhood and up a hill, and at the top were like these little strip mall type buildings, and there was a cafe there, and they sold crystals. And so I was like in there all the time, and they had psychics in there. And without even kind of thinking it was different or bizarre, I'd be sitting down and being trained by these psychics. And I'm just hanging out, that just as like a 15-year-old kid. And this is where I want to be, hanging out. So I learned a lot of different abilities and understanding. And they were the ones who shared with me that I was psychic. And I just wanted it so bad. I remember thinking, I want that bad. So I'd be all like in this happy bubble over there, and they come home and like try to share it with my parents. And my mom definitely was interested in that stuff, and she found it fascinating, but she also saw it as very separate. Like you had to be deemed as special. There was something that you had to attain to be marked as that. And I hadn't attained it. So I wasn't really acknowledged as having it. So there was sort of a kind of gatekeeper aspect to it. And I don't think it was intentional. I just think that she really believed something extraordinary had to happen. And so in my mind, something extraordinary had to happen. And so I had it, and I had people telling me I had it, but I was also blocking it because I was told that you had to be special. Someone had to say that you had this in order for you to have it. No one was saying that to me. So I just kept going. And I'd find myself, my mom was really into A Course in Miracles at the time. So she'd be like cooking dinner and listening to A Course in Miracles. And I'd be sitting down and just like, this makes, like, my heart was like, oh my God, this all makes sense. Everything's making sense now. And so I was this, 15, 16-year-old sitting in my room listening to Marianne Williamson, lectures about love and frequency and energy and metaphysics and all this stuff. And it's, again, it was building up inside of me. It was all there, but I still didn't have permission to do it. And if we fast forward through time, we get to about 2006, where things really start cooking for me. And this was where people were like, there were friends of mine would be like, okay, no one's looking, do your woo-woo thing. Like, just tell me what you're getting. Like, make it happen. Like, let's visualize this. And I'd be taking people through guided visualization into hypnosis, just hanging out with them and doing this work. And then things would shift for them. I know one person called me in and asked me to do this work, and they wanted to bring in money. And so I did all this clearing on them, and I lit candles, and none of this was coming from training. It was coming from instinct. And I was just doing it and guiding them through visualizing it, seeing it. And I remember they paid me, and I was just like shocked that someone would give me money for doing this. It wasn't connecting that could happen. And the next day they called me up, and they were like, oh my God, out of the blue, this person called up and wanted to make this big donation. And I'm like, well, you did that. I just helped. I was just preparing the space for you to allow that to happen. But people were telling me to take it seriously and to own it. And I was still waiting for the permission to do it. And it was just, it took me up until 2013, when I literally came out of the psychic closet, when I finally just stepped into it. I'm like, I'm here and I own it now. And that's really the point where I started to offer my services to people, and it just really bloomed and developed. But what I've noticed about it, and what I teach people about, is that my journey isn't so bizarre or nothing. Like I was waiting for mystical light to come down and like angels to be like, and then I'd know that it was happening. And really what it was just allowing myself to have something my heart desired so much. But I had been, sort of entrained to think I couldn't have it. And no one was really blocking me. My mom wasn't blocking me, and nobody else outside of me was saying, you can't do this. I was putting the wall up because of a belief or a shared belief that you had to be a certain way for this to happen. And the funny thing is, and I know there are people out there who can relate to this story, that there are people who they feel these things so deeply and they have sense
Yeah.
about things, and they're accurate about it, but they're not allowing it to flow through, and so they're not fully experiencing it and they're blocking it.
I totally agree with that. And I feel that that is part of the programming
Yep.
of, that this is woo woo and this is not normal, when
Right.
actually it is more normal than anything else. Like for me, even though I don't get visions and stuff like that, I can feel people's energy. And that's what we all can. It's like, especially if you have a partner or something, you feel their energy, and like I have a twin sister, and we could know what each other's thinking before they even say anything. And that's frequency, and that's actually what we're all connected to. So I love that. So fast forwarding to now, is a super, super challenging time for people. I mean, it feels like the world has gone crazy, and in a sense it has. And what I truly believe is that things are breaking down for an amazing new earth of peace, of harmony, of unity, which is our birthright, and it is here, and it is showing up for us. What is it that your guides are saying for this present time? What's coming about that people should be expecting?
Well, what's really interesting is that before 2020 happened, they were really talking about this big, what they would call a detox vibration coming through. And they had talked about how the energies in the 3D, right as we're moving into 4D, were going to split so dramatically that it was like you were in two different timelines or two different worlds. Like general thought was going to split so extreme that you could literally tell who was on your timeline and who's not on your timeline. And then of course we have the big pandemic happening, and like everything there was just like, I was like, holy crap, they were right. It really was this huge sort of divisive energy. But they were saying it's not intended to be divisive and as in divide us. It was to show us where the frequencies are going, because this was sort of a precursor to this bigger split that happens where we talk about like the new earth versus maybe old earth, or I've heard people call it like blessed Gaia versus earth, these energetics. And what they show me about it is it's not going to be this dramatic thing where the earth literally like shakes apart and the two appear, but rather it's more, and I use the term ectoplasmic because there's substance to it, but it's not a visceral physical shift, but there is a substance shift where you'll literally be walking down the street with other people and you'll have a completely different experience of the world than they are. Like you're going to be like, isn't this amazing? Isn't it? Look at how harmonious. And they're going to be like, this is the worst thing ever. And it's like, they'll be there. And it's what's interesting is that those who are on that sort of higher new earth timeline will be very aware of the others. The others won't have an awareness of it's almost like we're invisible to them.
Oh my gosh, that's been happening. That's been happening to me because I'm like, I give gratitude every single time I wake up. The first thing I do is thank you so much for my home. Thank you so much for my health and my family. And last night I was talking with some people, friends of mine who are challenged, very, very much. And that doesn't say I'm not challenged either. I just see it as a different, as a more of, okay, if there's a challenge coming up for me in my life, I see it more of there's something out of alignment in me that this is showing up. So let me align that frequency up, whether it's frustration or anger or sadness, whatever it is. But these friends of mine were like, oh, you're so positive. I need some of that positive energy. And because and they literally the energies were so different. And I could see and I could feel where they were at. And it was like, I hear what you're saying. It's very different. Like I could feel where they were at, and I knew that there was only so much I could share that they would get and
Yeah.
want to get. And if I shared too much, they wouldn't want to hear it. They
Right.
couldn't.
It
Yeah,
becomes
yeah,
conspiracy theory. It's like it
yeah,
doesn't quite resonate with the frequency they might be at. Now, here's the
yeah.
thing, no one is condemned to
Mm-mm.
a lesser frequency at all. It's a choice. It really is a
Yeah.
choice. And so, for anyone listening to this, if you get into that nervous space of like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make it to New Earth? Or what if I don't make
Yeah.
it to the ascension? You've already chosen. If you're actually invested in it, you're already there. That's where you're
Yeah.
going. And if you have loved ones who aren't in alignment with it, that don't have even awareness of it, our job over here is to not get caught up in feeling pity or fearful or like they're lacking in some way, or we need to let all of that go, because their soul is very wise and it's making a choice on purpose, right? And so they're not perceiving any as missing anything. Like we might look at it and go, oh my gosh, why would you want to be in a heavier frequency and not experience this, the bliss or the unification around you? They're not even aware of it in some cases. And in other cases, they're still waking up to it, and they'll come over as they have that awareness to it. So there's no lost opportunity, and there is no, there's just no need to fear or worry about it. And that's something I've actually, I've heard it from my team, but I've also heard it from other sources, like in the Dolores Cannon material, which is something I love her work and I study it a lot. It's very resonant to me. But she talks about that's kind of the slippery slope that the star seeds or light workers have to be aware of, is that we need to make sure we're not getting too emotionally attached to somebody else's choice, and that, so I've been actually practicing that, especially during COVID, especially during, making hard choices, like when we were going through the whole, vaccination issue, and we're still kind of dealing with that. And, not everybody that I love thinks the way I think. In fact, in my circumstance, I'm sort of the one standing on the outside. I'm not on the inside.
Yeah.
And so what I've been practicing is, instead of worrying about what's going to happen or the ramifications of their choices, I've been really practicing holding that intention of, I trust the soul. I don't, my human self doesn't understand that choice and why you would make it, but I trust your soul. And I notice that when I send my energy that way, one, there's less conflict, there's less of that divisiveness, right? And then there's more security in that. There's just a deeper sense of trust and peace that ultimately, if we really step like way out, go to the galactic level, this is all a simulation anyway. Like
it's a game. It is a freaking game. I was like, okay, this human vessel that houses my soul, my spirit, it's just a vessel. It's a boat, and I'm traveling through the frequency, through the river, which is the frequency of the empty space, which isn't empty. This is the frequency field. And where I go is my frequency is the rudder.
Yeah.
Guiding me along. So
That's right.
love that. I love that you said that.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, the more that it's really interesting, because the awakening process is so layered. It's so layered. You think you're awake, and then you come to a new level of understanding, and then you drop deeper into it. And so there's sort of this natural progression journey where you're aware of the simulation, or you're aware of the matrix, and then you're like, oh my God. And then you look at the whole structure of it, and that feels really upsetting and daunting. But then you drop through and you're like, but wait a minute, I'm a powerful creator being, and they're using my own consciousness to help create this. So now I don't consent to that. I'm not playing
exactly. Oh my gosh, that is so right on the money. Because you guys, okay, if you're watching this and you're going, what the heck are they talking about? We are so powerful, the frequency of what we have, especially collectively, that we create the world together. This is why the media has narratives that they want us to believe, because if we believe it together, the frequency of us believing it and talking about it together is what manifests it, is what creates it. So it's like, it's like, now I look at that and now I laugh. I literally laugh, and I'm like, oh, that's what their game is. Now they're trying to get people to believe this, and I write and I post stuff on Facebook, and I haven't posted one personal thing. I just laugh at everything, and so I'm like, okay, you guys, are you seriously buying this? Like, this is not what we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on unity. And I don't even want to say not what we need to be focusing on, because there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just a journey that each one of us is on, and breathing through it and finding my center and my peace. And that is micro into macro. And I love that you just said that. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, I just, it's loading right now. It'll be released later today, but on my YouTube channel, on Blythe Starlight YouTube, I do karma cards every week. And yesterday's message that came through was talking about the observer effect, which is so important for us to understand, because quantum physics literally shows us how our observation of reality impacts reality. And if we can really understand that, we understand why television is there, right? It's getting us to focus our attention. All we have to do is observe something to help it take form. So really quick, really brief about how it works is whatever we focus on starts to take particle form literally. It becomes matter. What we are not paying attention to is in its potentiated state of a wave or frequency. So by, like, for example, you know, there's the big hurricane that's happening in Florida, the Hurricane Ian, I think is what it is. By them telling us how scary and intense it is and how devastating it's going, they're saying this before it happens. It's coming, and they're like, oh my God, this is so bad. And they, you know, getting you to watch and participate in your focus, and you're like, oh my God. So here's the thing about our focus. It doesn't matter if we say we want it or not. If we're focusing on it, we're forming it. And this has to do with our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind creates form, and our subconscious does not delineate between positive or negative. It accepts everything. So it has to be driven by the conscious mind, which is what they're doing. They're driving your conscious mind. Look at this. This is scary. Oh my God. Oh my God. And as long as we're watching that going, oh my God, that form is taking shape. Now, if we were to pray about it and ask for it to destabilize, or to not destabilize, but to dissipate, and saying it's like, it's getting smaller, it's going to downgrade, it's going to just be a tropical storm, pretty soon it'll be nothing. And that's where we brought our attention. We would be bringing form to that, and the other would turn into a wave, a potentiality.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I even go, thank you so much, Infinite Intelligence Universe, for this amazing storm to just dissipate into a tropical storm. And it is going to be amazing. And I get into the frequency and the energy of it. This is how I manifested going to Bali in Australia when I had no money to go. I had nobody to teach my fitness classes. 3 weeks before I left, I literally got into actually a month before I left, I started getting into an excitement of, oh my gosh, I have way more than enough money. And I have an amazing trainer to teach my classes. And I do this 10 minutes every day and jump up and down, running through my house, so excited. And 3 weeks before I left, a trainer that I had hired years prior, the first trainer ever, calls me up and says, Michelle, I quit my job. I need classes. And 2 personal training clients called me up and were like, we want to pay you for 3 months in advance. And I was like, so I had the money, I had a trainer to teach, and it was so much fun. And that's the power that we have, because we're frequency. Everything is frequency. That's everything. Right. So I love that. I love that. So, how do you support clients? Like, what issues do people come to you for?
So, you know, I talk a lot about developing your intuition, and what's really interesting about that, and I'm excited about this actually. Well, I actually wrote an article years ago talking about the end of psychic readings. And I didn't mean like we'll not have any more psychic readings, because I do that for people. I still offer readings. I do psychic coaching, and that's really dependent on the client, what they want to develop. But a lot of times what we're really working on is our self-concept and our patterns, right? So we're looking at where's your baseline? What are you creating from? And what actually are you trying to create? Are they a frequency match to one another? Okay, what are you going to move in yourself to get into alignment with it? And I find that we need that help, because it is a process of literally, there's a lot of effort you have to exert at the beginning of changing a pattern or a self-concept, because it's so ingrained in you, it becomes unconscious. You just do it. It's just who you think you are. So if you're
Yeah.
actually trying to create a shift like that, you actually need to exert a lot of effort initially to move from unconsciously incompetent to unconsciously unconsciously competent. That takes a lot of effort in the middle. And I find that that's where I really can help support people. So I have like monthly coaching I do with people to help them move incrementally at a time. I also do mentoring where we work on something much more intimately for longer periods of time. And then of course I do a lot of readings with people as well. So we're really actually stepping into our creator beingness, and we're acknowledging what forms have I created,
Yeah.
what's living in potential, where do I want to go? Do I want to stay here? Most people don't, and they want to move into a higher version of themselves. And they absolutely, you can do this on your own. It's just, it takes so much, because in the beginning, you have to catch yourself. You have to become conscious of what the patterns are.
Of your emotional addictions, which people don't realize, that the
Right.
cells of your body actually become conditioned, and I call it an addiction to the frequency of your thoughts that you keep thinking over and over again. So this is why people stay looping over and over again, because their body feels normal. This is what I learned about weight loss. Is like, I help women with weight, and then they would gain it back again. And I was like, what is that? What is that? Why is it that I help people lose weight? I know they want to lose weight, and then they gain it back. And it's because the body cells are actually conditioned and addicted. I call it addicted, to the frequency, the feeling of struggling with their weight. So they're actually conditioned to, I'm someone who struggles with my weight. So no matter what diet they went on, they'd sabotage. So I love that you do that, because that for you to see that on your own is really challenging. We can't really see our own stuff. So in this time of amazingness and challenge and all kinds of stuff that's happening, what is one thing that people can do to support themselves at this time, and to be able to kind of float their boat in a more peaceful and harmonious way? Like, what is something that you would recommend for people to do right now at this time?
Yeah, so I hear a lot of people talking, and usually I have to admit, it's mostly like the social justice warrior types, all talking about how, we're trying to make a better world and we're trying to unify, but they're doing it in a very divisive way. And so people are thinking about how they want unity, but no one else is like cooperating. And what we all need to understand, what my team keeps bringing me back to, because I'm always asking, okay, what message do you want me to share? What is it that you're asking us all to focus on? I'll tell them. And they're always like, it's actually all about you. Believe it or not, this is about you healing and integrating, and stop dividing within yourself. All that divisiveness is internal. All the fracturing that's happening, that you're experiencing externally, remember, it's a simulation. It's actually being generated from within first. So as we do the work, as we do our healing work, our shadow work, as we start to reintegrate parts of ourselves that we had long ago rejected, and start bringing these pieces back, what happens is we create the unified field within. And once you have the unified field within, you actually start to radiate the unified field. And the more of us that do that, it just starts to happen. So what we need to do is we need to remember, we need to think about our focus like a camera. It's a really good analogy. So a camera has the ability to either focus on the subject, which in this case would be you, or the background, which in this case would be everybody else. But here's the problem. If you're focused on the background, the subject goes out of focus, right? So you go out of focus. You're so concerned about what so-and-so is doing or saying or being over here that you aren't paying attention to yourself. The one area you can actually make a change in and have control is over yourself. And you see a lot of people really focused on what are you saying? What are you doing? Like, what choices are you making? And they're wanting to control and change. And we're seeing it on such a big scale. I mean, that's what the movie is about, is kind of showing
it
this.
Is.
Right?
Yes.
So what the solution is to bring the focus back to you. What can I do within myself that would create more harmony and unity? Well, I'm not at peace with maybe my body, like some of your clients feel, right? I'm not at peace with my body. I've actually separated from it on some level. right? And I need
Yeah.
to actually get back in touch with that. And that's painful to do. So then I have to go deeper and do the work. But as I'm doing that, I can't focus on the outside world. And the miracle is it doesn't fall apart. People aren't
No.
falling apart just because you're focused in on how you need to heal. And of course, it's just like the metaphor with the oxygen mask. Who can you help if you're so out of focus? Right? Who
Absolutely.
can
I
you
love
help
that.
if you can't breathe? You need to help yourself. And this is another message I've really been kind of trying to get people who are service to others oriented. The positive polarity is the service to others, but there is a very narrow margin where it actually goes out of service, and that's when it goes into martyrdom, where you're sacrificing yourself for the greater good, and that is
Yeah.
not being asked of us. And my team keeps saying
I love that you
it,
said that. Oh, wait, I want to hear what you say because I have to tell you
well,
something, but go ahead, finish.
so my team keeps saying it's not actually service to others if it doesn't include you. If you're left out, then it's not the one, it's not the whole. It's
Yeah.
missing a piece, right? And the interesting thing about the martyr and the narcissist are actually sharing a story, and their story is, I'm different or separate from you. Like in the narcissist's case, it's I'm more important than you, and in the martyr's case, it's I'm less than you. But it's still a story of separation, and there's the trap
Wow.
that a lot of service-oriented people need to be aware of.
That was so me. I thought I'm gonna save the world because I put like all this stuff was going on with COVID. It got me for 2 weeks, and I'm like, wait a minute. I've been a health fitness professional for 20 years. I know that hand sanitizer is poison for your body because your body has more bacteria than it does cells. And if you put
Right.
hand sanitizer, which kills bacteria, on your hands, and then you're eating a sandwich, you're literally killing the good bacteria on your body that helps you to not be sick. And then the
Right.
mask, I'm like, that's going to affect your teeth. It's going to affect your throat. It's going to affect your skin. It's going to affect your nasal passages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I put together a health summit. That was a big fiasco on the other side of Kona, on the other side of the island. And I thought, okay. And then I looked it up, and the regular flu had killed more people for the past 6 years than the COVID. And I thought, oh, I'm going to do this, and it's all going to be over, and everybody's going to get it. It was kind of, oh, there's a whole story with it, but I was very much a huge activist for freedom, and I couldn't understand why people couldn't see what was happening. And now what I really understand is, I still stand up and I still speak my truth. And I let her, and I was angry. I was really mad. And my sister
Yeah.
was like, why are you so mad? And I was like, because I don't understand how people are not seeing what's happening. And
Right.
then and now I've totally shifted to, I need to just have peace in myself, because me being angry is hurting me. It's not hurting anybody else. And my peace inside of myself is a micro energy frequency that will help the macro frequency
Yes.
move toward what I want, which is peace, harmony, and unity.
Yeah.
So I
And
totally agree with
I
that.
just I want to clarify too. I think that activism has its place, and there's definitely, we need the bullhorn, we need the awareness, we need people like recognizing each other and coming together. So when I say that as we're focusing on the background, we go out of focus. That's true. It's a beautiful balance that we have to
It's a
strike,
balance.
because you can go too far. It's like, even
Yeah.
you can have too much of a good thing, and when you feel like nothing I do is making a difference, this is where we tend to go dark. We get really angry, we get really frustrated, maybe we get bitter, maybe we take the black pill, and we're just like, we're all screwed, and why bother? That's a really slippery slope that area goes down. I've not seen anyone go down a slippery slope when they're focused in on themselves, and you're like, know what? Okay, I've said my piece. I know where I stand. I am super clear on my position in everything here. And I am feeling that frustration. I'm feeling the anger. I'm feeling resentment. I'm feeling divisive in myself. And I know that's telling me something's going on inside of me that I'm not at peace with. I'm not at
Yeah.
peace with this. And so the people I see that are going inward and doing the work, they're not falling down. They're actually getting stronger the deeper we go. And the thing about this
I
is,
love it.
ascension process that we just need to understand is it ramps. Okay, we're on a ramp going upwards. Now, ultimately, we're going to get to something that is so worth all of this that you're going to be okay. That's the end point. We're going to be okay. It's going to feel like hell, because it's like, imagine riding a bike straight up a hill and you don't get to stop.
Oh my
Your
goodness.
legs burn, like you're in like pain at one point, you know, and you know,
I just did that this
wow.
morning. I had to get off the bike, but yeah, I got to stop. But yeah, it's painful.
But you know, right? Imagine. So I don't know, were you outside or were you on a bike inside? At least, you know, you're like, at least I know where this ends. In our case, energetically, none of us really knows when we're going to hit that point where we get the release, where we're like, oh my gosh, we're here. Yeah. It is imminent, it's coming. And there is a rampage of intensity. And what we'll find is that people, not everyone wants to go the whole distance. Yeah. Not everyone's meant to go the whole distance. That's why we see so many people dropping off. You know, we can call it genocide, but you have to remember the souls involved agreed to it. They knew it was coming. It was part of their contract. They're like, we're going to be part of Team Wake Up in a harsh way. That's who they are, right? Like, let's wake up in a harsh way. And they chose to opt out. They didn't want to go into the intensity that some of us are going to go to ride this thing all the way to the peak. Yeah. And it doesn't mean they won't be part of what they are. They're actually on standby. They're kind of hanging out in a beautiful vacation place right now while they're waiting for us to get here. So it's not that they're going to miss anything. They just know their own limits. Every soul knows. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have family members and I have to, at first I was angry and I'm like, you know, I've been in the fitness industry for 20 years. Why aren't you listening to what I'm telling you? Like, why aren't you just questioning a little bit about what I'm telling you? And it just broke my heart, because I was like, how they know how, I mean, I have a best-selling book. I had like, oh my gosh. And just for them not to believe what I'm saying and for them to believe the news, I was just, it just hurt so bad. And then I was can feel that. I remember. That would be painful. Oh my gosh, I had to remember. Okay, Michelle, this is their own journey. You want your sovereignty and freedom. You have to let other people have their own sovereignty and freedom without judgment. This is not about you. And it took a bit for me to get there, and now I'm there. And so when I talk to this individual, we do not talk about anything with the media or anything that's going on, and we can actually have a relationship that's really nice and kind, and that's helps both of us. So I love everything you're saying. I totally am on board. And that's the other thing too that I'm on board with, is that we have been programmed to fear death and to think that some people that think that that's it. It's not it. This, you know, where did we come from? We're not here. We're here for less than 100 years. The frequency of who we are is going to transition to where is that? It's another frequency. Energy doesn't die. Never dies. So I love that you brought that in as well, that piece right there. Yeah. And I'd love for people to sort of think about themselves like you are maybe 10% physical and 90% non-physical. So it's like the equivalent of your finger poking through this physical reality. That means the rest of you is non-physical, standing out here, and only the finger is inside the experience, thinking it's Michelle or Therese. And you know, we're having this whole life, but it's really just one part of a greater being that you are. Yes, huge. So I'm curious about your guides. Like you keep saying your team. Who, at first when you said your team, I thought it was your team. I was like, oh cool, she's got a team. That really helps. You're administrative, you're a marketing person. We have board meetings together and we talk about so my team is Spirit. The reason I refer to them as my team is because I've become aware that they fluctuate. Everybody's does. So actually Michelle and I, as we're together, we've actually joined teams. So she's sending me information on a non-physical level that's kind of looping through my energy field and kind of going back to her. So it's like, you can see this. I started as like maybe 14 entities or something around me. And now we're at like 24 or something like that, you know? So that's what it looks like. And we've got these concentric rings. I like to kind of visualize, imagine yourself in the center and there's these concentric rings going out.
The flower of life.
Exactly. So in the innermost ring is with you as your personal guides, your 24/7 team and spirit. Now this might be one, you might have 3 or 4. Everybody's got a different number. Some of them come in later and stay with you. Some of they interchange themselves. It's so hard to say who's there. And not only that, but like at a certain point, my team just kind of like, we're like, this construct of you needing to know who we are and what we look like and what our names are is a very human construct, Therese. Like, you understand that, like, over here, it doesn't look like that. And when I've actually gone under hypnosis and looked at it, there's like, it's light, color, sound, it's energy, you feel, it's palpable, but there is really no identity like we have on this plane where we've got this identity. And I know, you know, I know my name, I know my preferences, what I look like, how I'm, you know, what my hairstyles have been. I all of that's very human in construct. And so in the beginning, when we're reaching out to our guides, we have a very human contact, and that's fine. That they adjust for that because they're like, we're just trying to relate and connect to you. So in the beginning, I had a guide I nicknamed Jack, and I found out later he's actually alive. He's a 4th dimensional energy on the inner earth, which was like, okay, like that's so weird to think like there's this living being who's like contacting. And then of course you think about telepathy, and it's not so weird. It's just somebody who I have a contract with. But he's been a regular. But as it expanded, there have been, well, I've had a few people who've passed over who came to hang out for a while, which was super weird. And it was especially around my daughter. Like, he was very protective and loving towards my daughter when she was very little. So he would come around, but he would like leave messages that he was there on my phone. He would like, music would start playing all of a sudden. My phone would be like under my pillow, and I was like napping with my daughter, and my phone would start playing a song, and it was something called like Hey Pretty, and the album was from an album called Haunted, and that was like his joke. He was like, wink wink. It was crazy. So I've had entities who were very like, he also had taken his life when he passed, so he was sort of lost, and he realized I could sense him, and so that's why he kind of connected for a while. But he had tech. He worked in tech when he was on this plane. So he was very good with technology, and that's how he would communicate. But he actually left a while ago. I had another psychic work with me, and we helped him pass over. But you get these beings like that. Dolores Cannon, actually, how I found out who she was is she came through after she's passed over.
Yeah. And
she was reaching out to me, trying to get my attention. And I was super stubborn, because a lot of times when this happens, I want to live a normal life. I don't want to live a life where I'm like, oh God, you know, George is here. You know what I mean? I just want to do my own thing. So she was trying to get my attention, and she came through YouTube. It was so funny. Every time I try to post one of my videos up to my website, I'd go check it to see if it loaded. And it was always a video of her every time.
Wow.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I was like, what is this bitch doing? Like, get off of my computer.
Wow, she's powerful though. That's amazing.
She is. And she comes through sessions as well. She's come through many people's sessions when they do quantum healing hypnosis, which I also have just started doing. I finally, like, she wanted me to start doing it back in 2018. And I just now got around to doing it. And I'm like, why did I wait so long? But yeah, she's an amazing woman. And she's left a really amazing legacy that helps people understand who they are. I mean, during sessions, you get to, you know, see your past lives. You also get to see where you go in between lives, and you get to find out, you know, who the people in your life are and why they're important to you, like what you guys are doing here together, you know, what you're working on together, why you might have people in your life where you're like, why are they so so far on the other side of awareness than me, but there's a reason for that. There's this reason why
Yeah,
we're going to come back and
absolutely.
we're going to be at odds with each other, but I'm going to find the way back to you. I'm going to use my love to guide me back to you and recognize that, yeah, maybe we don't see things the same way and I can still love you.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. I freaking love that. So, let me check our time. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with what people can do to support themselves at this time? I love everything that you're talking about, and if you know, and also the different dimensions. And if you heard Therese talk about the inner Earth, that might be something that's like, what is that? Because that's a whole nother video that
Oh
we
my
can talk about.
gosh. That's a
I just want
whole
to
other
say
video.
that you guys watching this video, we have not been told the truth about the planet, about the solar system, about who we are, about, school is literally a programming for factory workers. I mean, that's not how the brain works. Every hour bell, that's a factory worker.
Yeah.
So it's like, following your guidance, feel into your heart of what you feel is true and leave what you don't. That's fine. So
Yeah.
I just want to encourage people to have that. But is there any last message? And then I'd love you to give your website again for anybody who wants to reach you.
Sure. Yeah. So there's so many things I'd love to share with you, but I think the one that that's really been kind of like working through my consciousness lately is this idea that everyone wants to know where are we going? What's this going to happen? How are
I
things going to
know.
play out? What we
Yeah.
have to understand, and this again, it's really about where you move your consciousness. You're a creator being. Don't give your power away to anyone else's story about what's coming, because if you could just imagine, and the way I use this is like, when you go to Bed Bath and Beyond, you're looking at the shower curtains and they're all stacked up next to each other and you can flip through and see them. Imagine dimensions like that. Now we
Hmm.
have parallel earth, like infinite. If you were to
Yep.
step back and see them, it would kind of make you nauseous how many there are. And the variations between these timelines are either on a spectrum. So wherever timeline you're on, there's timelines right next to you where almost the same thing is happening, but instead of having coffee this morning, you had matcha, and that changed the course of the day and puts you on a specific timeline. Okay. So if there are all these timelines / dimensions happening next to each other, there's some that are really close to what you're
Hmm.
experiencing now with minor variations. And as you get further out, there's drastic differences, right? And it can be drastic to a more positive timeline, or more negative in a different direction. So if you kind of just imagine them all hanging together, this is why I tell my audience that there is no one reality. And that's one thing that I've heard people say, well, what about consensus reality? And I'm like, I understand what you're saying. Like there is truth, there is a consensus, but there's also dimensional shifts. And so if you are hearing one person talk about the future and what's going to happen, and they're like, it's going to be doom and gloom, the bad guys win, we're going down, it's transhumanism, blah, blah, blah. That is
No.
playing out on a certain timeline. And if
No.
you're bringing your attention to that, you're creating form and you're going there. If you're on a timeline where it's like, all these people come in and they makes it look like they're changing, but then they shift and they're actually also on a bad, like, it's just, there's so many stories about what's going to happen, and there's people telling it as if it is the truth. And I'm not discrediting these people. I'm not saying that they're wrong. What I'm saying is it's all based on what you're tuned into.
Yeah.
And so you
Yes.
really want to own your vision. That's why I'm like, you should spend time thinking about what you want to experience. You should get invested in that. You should think about, instead of focusing on what you're afraid is going to happen, you'll be giving form to that. Focus on what you want to have happen. So, oh my God, the wall at the border actually is a giant tuning fork, and it's actually broadcasting 528 or 432 frequency right now, and it's sending healing waves. Or, oh my God, the towers that they're putting up aren't cell phone towers, they're Tesla towers. And it's like, they get activated and people heal. Oh my God, these free energy devices that were being withheld from us get discovered and released. And, all of Africa has absolute free energy and everybody's getting their needs met. There's clean water coming in, you know, everything that you want to see happen, focus in on it,
Yes.
because your observation of it, even in your mind, is so powerful. You're creating it. So
Yes.
when you hear someone's version of what's going to happen, you can say, thank you for telling me. And if you don't like it, you can say, I don't consent to that. I'm actually going over here. And it
Yeah.
might feel at first kind of inauthentic, like, well, you know, I'm just making things up. But you got to realize just how powerful you are. If
Yeah.
you're thinking you're making it up and that they have more power in your life than you, all you've done there is given power away to somebody
Yeah.
else's vision. You're lending your power to.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to say too is, you know, people are, they may be thinking, okay, what is she talking about with the curtains and the different dimensions and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to the fact that we have not been told exactly what is happening. I mean, we can only see a bit, the light spectrum is humongous, and we only see
Yeah.
a very, very small part
That's
of that, of our light spectrum. That's it. And the reason why we have not been taught all of this is one word called control. That's it. And you giving your power away. You said it so perfectly. It's like we are sovereign beings of light. We are energetic sovereign beings of light. And we have God gave us free will, and he has one law. It's do no harm to yourself, do no harm to others. And we are free. We are literally free beings to do what we choose to do, as long as we're not harming others and we're not harming ourselves. And so I love this conversation, and it's don't give away your power. Stand in your truth and see what is you want. That's why every time, like when I wake up at night, I'm giving gratitude for, thank you so much for where I live. I'm giving gratitude for my journey. I'm giving gratitude for my relatives, and I'm giving gratitude for my health and my clients. And I wake up that way. And that was a practice. It didn't always happen like that, because before I was waking up in fear and anger and just like, I can't believe this is happening. But then again, I go, oh my gosh, this has to happen, because things that people have to see what we've been, the enslavement that we've been in for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And we get to choose what we want instead of the narrative that is being chosen for us, for the control that they want. We are free beings to actually choose what we want to create together.
Right.
And it starts inside of each of us, micro, and goes out to the macro again, like I said before. And so you're speaking my language, sister. This is fantastic.
Yeah, no, you're making so many great points. And really, yeah, just as soon as people start to realize that, yeah, we may have been enslaved, but we have to remember the cage door has always been open. They taught us how to stay in. It's the same as the metaphor with the elephant as a baby. It had the little, you know, rope on it staked to the ground. And that same elephant as an adult stands there acting like that little tether can hold it. Only because it doesn't know itself. It just knows the control system, but it doesn't know itself. And as soon as it realizes that it can just lift its leg up and the stake comes right out, it's free. And it's the same with humanity. Yes, we've been taught the control system. We've been taught to play the game a certain way. But as soon as you wake up to the beautiful, powerful being you are, that's connected to source, we are one infinite intelligence together. And as soon as you realize that that exists inside of you, you suddenly look around, you're like, the cage door's open. I don't have to be in this thought matrix anymore. And you're free.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So how can people find you? Do you have any thing that you want to offer, or
Yeah, so there are a lot of offers that I do. I'm always on YouTube, so you can find me on YouTube at Blythe Starlight. You can also find me at blythestarlight.com. There's so many fun ways that we can get together. I have a book called Confidence is Magic on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle right away. And on my website, there is a free energetic protection guide that just teaches you how to use your own natural protective energy, and in different instances, from a light version of protection all the way up to, like, you know, guardian angel level protected.
I love it.
That helps you as you're moving out of this fear-based mentality of, you know, something's greater than me is going to get me, to, no, I am the greatest power in my life. And as you're moving through that, it's helpful to help ground yourself and envision protection until you start to feel strong enough in who you really are.
I love it. And spell your website for me, please.
Sure.
BLY.
So BLYTHESTARLIGHT. So Blythe Starlight. Blythe is Old
Awesome.
English. It means joy in Old English.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Awesome. Well, Therese, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to interview you. And I'm so thankful that you're doing what you're doing, because I know you're helping so many people and just making the world a better place, and getting and keeping us on that, or keeping us all on, because your frequency helps the macro again. So on that amazing timeline of peace, love, of harmony, of unity, which is here for all of us.
Joy and joy.
And joy and
It's
happiness.
a pleasure to be here. And it's a
Yes.
pleasure to be here with you on this journey. I'm so glad you're here with me. I'm so glad all of you are with us and that we're together.
Yes.
That's it. And we'll remember each other on a deeper level very soon. So until then, just know you are surrounded in absolute love and protection, and you are the strongest of the strong. That's why you're here.
Amen. I love it. And so it is. And aloha, everyone. I will talk with you guys soon. Much aloha.
Bye.